Every middle-aged woman out there wants to be touched in this one specific place. But here's the thing. Almost no man actually knows where that is. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 5 places that women desperately want to be touched, but will almost never tell you about. I'm pulling this straight from medical research and over 15 years of hands-on clinical experience. And I'll be honest with you, if you don't know this, you could be missing out for the rest of your life. If you're a man who genuinely wants to connect with your partner, heart and body, stay with me until the very end. Because what I'm about to share will completely change the way you think about physical intimacy. And you'll walk away with real, actionable ways to make the woman in your life feel truly seen and cared for. Now, before I get into it, I want to address something that I hear all the time from the men who come into my practice. A lot of you have told me, and I mean a lot, that things have gone cold. Not just a little cool. I mean years of distance, years of sleeping on opposite sides of the bed, of saying good night without really meaning it, of watching TV side by side but feeling completely alone. Some of you have told me it's been so long that you wouldn't even know where to start. And honestly, that breaks my heart, because in almost every single one of those cases, the woman isn't indifferent. She's hurting too. She's longing for connection just as much as you are, maybe even more, but she doesn't know how to ask for it. And you don't know how to offer it, so both of you just wait, and the distance grows. I want you to know something important right now. It is not too late. I don't care if it's been 2 years or 20 years. The techniques I'm sharing today have helped couples in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s completely transform their relationship dynamic. Not overnight, and not without some awkwardness at first, but genuinely, meaningfully transform. So if you're in that place right now, keep watching. I'm going to address that specifically later on, because you deserve a real answer. Not just a vague, just communicate better. We're going way deeper than that today. Now here's something a lot of people get completely wrong. There's this idea that once you hit a certain age, physical affection kind of becomes less necessary. Like it's something for young couples, something you outgrow. I cannot stress enough how wrong that is. Research actually shows the exact opposite. The older a woman gets, the more deeply she craves gentle, caring, thoughtful physical touch from her partner. The problem isn't that the need goes away. The problem is that the communication breaks down. A recent psychological study, as well as research data from several major U.S. university programs, confirmed that women in their middle years and beyond find it increasingly difficult to express their true physical and emotional needs out loud. Think about it. There's embarrassment, there's the fire of rejection, there's decades of conditioning that says you don't ask for that kind of thing. So on the surface, she might seem totally fine, unbothered, maybe even a little distant. But underneath that, there's a strong, persistent wish to feel cherished, to feel like someone is paying attention to her body and her comfort and her well-being. This is especially true as women move through hormonal changes. Skin sensitivity shifts. Emotional needs become more nuanced. The way you used to touch her 5 or 10 years ago might not land the same way it does now. And a tiny difference in timing, in pressure, in location. It can either pull you two closer together or push you further apart. Understanding this, really understanding it, is the single most important first step toward rebuilding intimacy in a long-term relationship. I've been in this field for over 15 years now. I've sat across from hundreds of couples and thousands of individual clients, and I can tell you the phrase I hear most often from women, of all ages, but especially in their 50s and 60s, is some version of this. I just want him to touch me more, but I'd never say that to him. And when I ask why not, the answers are always the same. It's embarrassing. I don't want to seem needy. He'll think it's a bigger deal than I mean it to be. So instead, she says nothing, and he interprets the silence as indifference, and both of them suffer quietly. I had a client, I'll call him Robert. He was 67 at the time, retired electrician from outside of Columbus, Ohio. And he told me that he and his wife of 38 years had basically stopped touching each other in any meaningful way years before. Not out of anger, not because of any one fight, just drift. He said one evening his wife mentioned offhandedly that her neck was killing her. She'd been at the computer all day helping their grandkids with some online school project. And Robert said on a whim, he just walked up behind her and put his hands on the back of her neck. Real slow, real gentle, and he said, "I don't know, Doc. I expected her to shrug me off or something, but she just went still. And then she leaned into it. He told me that within a week of doing that a few times, they were talking more than they had in years. He couldn't explain it, but I could. That spot on the back of the neck, what we sometimes call the nape, is one of the most neurologically rich areas of the entire body. The parasympathetic nervous system, which is basically your body's built-in relaxation mode, has a dense concentration of nerve endings running from the base of the skull down through the shoulders. When you apply a slow, gentle touch to that area, the body almost automatically begins to shift out of stress mode and into a state of calm and safety. Research out of a major East Coast medical program found that light touch applied to the nape of the neck in female subjects produced measurable reductions in cortisol. That's the stress hormone, alongside significant increases in reported feelings of well-being and comfort. This isn't soft science. This is real, documented physiology. And here's the part that I think is so important for all of you to understand, especially if you've been in a long, maybe strained relationship. The nape of the neck is an area women can't easily reach themselves. It's a place that requires someone else's care. When you touch it with intention, you're communicating something that goes way beyond the physical. You're saying, I see you, I'm here, you don't have to carry everything alone. Women who have been in relationships for a long time, women who have maybe put their own needs on the back burner for years while raising kids or managing a household or supporting a career, these women often feel a physical and emotional release when someone tenderly cares for that space. If you want to try this, here's exactly what to do. Before you even touch her, take a warm, damp towel, not hot, just comfortably warm, and lay it gently across the back of her neck for about 30 seconds. This loosens the muscle tissue and makes the entire experience significantly more pleasurable. Then use the full palm of your hand, not just the fingertips, and move slowly in small circles. No nails, no pressure. Think less massage and more warmth. And while you're doing it, say something simple. You doing okay? Or, you've been working hard lately, huh? That combination of touch and acknowledgement is incredibly powerful. Now, once you've started to soften things up at the next place most men completely overlook is actually right next door, behind the ear and the earlobe itself. I know. When I tell men this in my office, I usually get the same look. Like, really? The ear. But hear me out, because this one surprises people every time. The area behind the ear and the earlobe has an extremely high concentration of nerve endings that connect very directly to the brain's pleasure and bonding centers. Research from a well-known neuroscience program found that soft, gentle stimulation of the area surrounding the ear significantly increases the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and produces a warm, spreading sensation of comfort in the brain. As women get older, sensory perception changes in subtle ways, and many women in their 50s and 60s find that gentle stimulation near the ear has a surprisingly deep, calming, and connecting effect. I had another client, I'll call him Tom, 58, a high school football coach from Tennessee, who came to me because he and his wife of nearly 20 years had hit what he described as a wall. He said they were fine. They weren't unhappy exactly. They just weren't really there for each other anymore. On the advice of a colleague of mine, Tom tried something simple one evening while they were watching TV on the couch. He reached over and very lightly traced his finger behind her ear. She was startled at first. He told me she gave him this look like, "What are you doing?" But he just whispered, "Hey, long day, huh?" And something cracked open between them that night. They talked for 2 hours. He said it was the best conversation they'd had in probably a decade. The reason this works isn't mystical. When you gently touch behind the ear, especially when paired with a soft voice or a whispered word, you're activating a deeply primal sense of safety and closeness. It's vulnerable territory. It's a spot women don't typically expose to just anyone. When you touch it with care, with no agenda other than just being present with her, she feels safe enough to drop her guard. The walls come down. A couple of important notes here. Hygiene matters. Make sure your hands are clean. And keep the touch light. We're talking feather light, almost like you're barely making contact. If she seems ticklish or pulls back at all, don't force it. Just acknowledge it. Too much? You can laugh about it. That conversation itself builds connection. According to a survey of women over 50 conducted by a U.S. behavioral health institution, more than 40% of respondents said that gentle touch near the ear, combined with a whispered word of affirmation, felt like a uniquely intimate and healing form of connection. And yet, almost none of them had ever asked for it directly. That's your opening, guys. After you've worked the neck and the ears, the next spot to know about is the area around the shoulder blades. Now, this one I actually hear about quite a bit. Women mention it more directly than the other areas, but men still underestimate how powerful it is. The shoulder blades are a physical storage unit for stress. If your partner is anything like most women in their 50s and 60s, she is carrying a lot. Maybe she's helping care for grandkids. Maybe she's still working. Maybe she's managing health stuff, family stuff, money stuff, all of the above, and it all lands in the back. A study from a major research university found that approximately 70% of women over 50 reported chronic tension and heaviness around the shoulder blade area. 70%. That is not a small number. Here's the thing about the shoulder blades that makes them particularly important for rebuilding intimacy. This is the area where, psychologically, people carry their armor. I see it in my practice constantly. A woman who has been strong for everyone else, who hasn't let herself be vulnerable in years, will carry her shoulders high and forward like a shield. When you place your hands gently on her shoulder blades, and I mean gently, not forcefully, not in a I'm about to give you a deep tissue massage way, something shifts. She feels held, she feels protected, maybe for the first time in a long time, and that shifts everything. I worked with a couple I'll call the Hendersons, both in their mid-60s, married 32 years, living outside of Phoenix. They'd come to me because their physical relationship had essentially disappeared, and neither of them knew how to start it back up. I gave them one homework assignment for the first week. Every evening before bed, one of them would place both hands on the other's shoulder blades for 5 minutes. Just hold. No technique, no specific movement, just presence. They came back the next week, and both of them were emotional just talking about it. She said it was the first time in years she'd felt like she could exhale. He said he hadn't realized how much he'd missed just being physically close to her without any pressure or expectation attached. If you want to add some technique here, this is how. Place both palms flat against the outer edges of her shoulder blades. Follow the natural curve of her body. Slowly move in wide, gentle circles. Match your movements to her breathing. When she exhales, apply a tiny bit of extra warmth. When she inhales, ease up slightly. This breathing synchrony is something professional bodywork practitioners use intentionally, and it creates a profound sense of attunement between two people. And for those of you whose partners have been resistant to touch for a while, this is a great place to start because it reads as caring rather than sexual. You're not making a move, you're just being present. Now we move lower, and this is where things get really interesting. The lower back, specifically the area around the hips and just above them. I know a lot of men think of this as just another massage area, but it is far more significant than that. Anatomically, this region is adjacent to the pelvis and has a significant impact on circulation, lymphatic flow, and the autonomic nervous system. Research published in a U.S. sexual health journal found that gentle touch in the lower back region directly correlates with increased relaxation and reported feelings of physical and emotional satisfaction in women. And as women age, this area becomes increasingly prone to stiffness, poor circulation, and what a lot of women describe as a constant low-grade chill, a feeling of coldness that won't go away. I had a client named Gary, 69, a retired firefighter from upstate New York. His wife had been telling him for months that her lower back was always cold, always tight. He'd kind of brushed it off, maybe offered to get her a heating pad, but hadn't really engaged with it directly. After a session with me, he started a simple nightly habit. Before they went to sleep, he'd warm his hands by rubbing them together for a few seconds, and then he'd lay both palms flat against her lower back. Just hold them there. Let the warmth transfer. After about a week, his wife told him she was sleeping better than she had in years, and then she said something that floored him. She said she felt safe again. He came back to my office genuinely moved by that. She said she felt safe again, Doc. I didn't know she'd stopped feeling that way. That word, safe, is so important. For a lot of women, especially those who've been in long relationships where the physical connection has faded, there's an underlying current of loneliness and emotional exposure. They may not say it out loud. They may not even fully recognize it. But when a partner reaches out in a way that is warm and unhurried and expecting absolutely nothing in return, it communicates safety. And safety is the foundation of intimacy. You cannot build closeness on top of anxiety or guardedness or pressure. Safety has to come first. When you're touching the lower back, use both palms and approach from the side, not from directly behind, especially if it's been a while since you two have had much physical contact. Approaching from the side is less startling and feels more like a gentle offering. Warm your hands first. Let the warmth do the work. You don't need technique here, you need patience. You can add slow, small circles after a few minutes if she's receptive. And say something low and calm while you're doing it. Cold out there today, huh? Or long day for both of us. Keep it real. Keep it human. That's what makes the touch land. Now I want to specifically speak to those of you who are in that place I mentioned at the beginning, where it's been years and the thought of reaching out physically feels awkward, maybe even scary. You might be worried she'll pull away. You might feel embarrassed or unsure of yourself. I want you to hear this clearly. Start small. Start with one hand on her lower back for 30 seconds while she's doing dishes. Start with sitting next to her on the couch and very slowly, very casually, resting your hand near hers. You don't have to go from 0 to 60. In fact, you shouldn't. The reconnection has to be gradual, genuine, and completely free of expectation. If she pulls back, don't make it weird. Just say, "Hey, no pressure. I just wanted to be close for a second." And then leave it alone. Try again in a few days. What you're doing is reestablishing trust with your body before your words. And that, for a lot of couples I've worked with, ends up being the thing that finally breaks through after years of walls. The fifth and final place is one that almost everybody underestimates. The palm of the hand and the fingertips. I know it sounds almost too simple. But the hand is, from a neurological standpoint, one of the most densely innervated areas of the entire human body. There's a reason we call it the second heart in integrative medicine. Research from a prominent California university demonstrated that physical touch through the hands, particularly sustained, warm, intentional contact, measurably increases oxytocin levels and produces lasting feelings of comfort, security, and emotional bonding. This isn't a small effect. The numbers in that study were significant. For a lot of women, especially those in their 50s and 60s, the act of holding hands or having their palms gently massaged carries enormous emotional weight. In a nationwide survey of women in that age bracket, nearly 60% said that having their hand held made them feel warm and safe and genuinely cared for. But here's the catch. The same survey found that most of those women would not initiate it. They'd want it, they'd think about it, but they'd never reach out first. Embarrassment, fear of seeming needy, that old conditioning again. So as the person who wants to rebuild that connection, you have to be the one who reaches out. I want to tell you about the Millers, David and Carol, both 61 from a suburb of Chicago. They came to me in a rough spot, 2 years of almost no physical contact. David told me he felt like he was living with a roommate. Carol felt invisible and taken for granted. I gave them a very specific assignment. Every night for 2 weeks, one of them would give the other a 5-minute hand massage. That's it, just the hands. No other expectations, nothing else on the agenda. David said the first night was awkward, borderline uncomfortable. He didn't know what to do with his hands, she seemed tense. But he just kept going, slow and gentle, and by about the 3rd minute, she started to relax. By the end, she was talking. Not about anything in particular, just talking. About her day, about a show she'd been watching, about her sister. And he said, "Doc, I haven't heard her just talk like that in 2 years." By the end of the 2 weeks, Carol had started reaching for David's hand on her own when they sat down for dinner. He told me that one small thing, just that one gesture, felt like getting his wife back. Here's how to do this right. Hold her hand palm up in both of yours and use your thumbs to make slow, gentle, circular motions across the center of her palm. Don't press hard. The goal is warmth and presence, not deep tissue work. Then move to the fingers. Gently trace along each finger from the base to the tip. Take your time. If she seems tense at first, don't give up. Just keep the pressure light and the pace slow. Make sure your hands are clean and consider using a little unscented hand lotion. The smoothness of the skin makes the whole experience more comfortable for both of you. One last thing I want to leave all of you with. None of what I've shared today requires perfect technique. None of it requires you to be smooth or experienced or to have done any of this before. What it requires is intention. It requires that you actually mean it. That you're reaching out not because you want something in return, but because you genuinely want her to feel cared for. Women feel that difference instantly. They've spent decades being able to read the energy behind a touch. If you approach any of these 5 places with a hidden agenda, it won't land right. But if you come to it with honest, patient, unhurried care, even if your hands are shaking a little, even if it's awkward at first, she will feel it. And that feeling, the feeling of being truly seen and cherished by the person who has been beside you for years, is one of the most healing things a human being can experience. Start tonight. Pick one. The nape of the neck, the ears, the shoulder blades, the lower back, the hands, just one. Approach it slowly without expectation, with genuine warmth, and see what happens. If this video helped you, drop a comment below and let me know. I read every single one. Tell me which technique you're going to try first, or share what's worked for you in the past. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. There's a lot more where this came from. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.